One night, I got the late night munchies, but I never considered that wanting a late night snack just might get me killed. I worked late one night, got home, and instead of eating dinner, I just ate a snack. That turned out to be a mistake, as I got really hungry later. After I checked my fridge, nothing grabbed me, so I got in my car and decided to see what was still open. It was a weeknight, so my pickings were slim. To complicate matters, I wasn't dressed for dine-in anywhere. So where I ended up, it had to have a drive-thru. As it turned out, McDonald's was my only choice. While I don't dislike the place, it wasn't my first choice. But it was in any port in the storm night, so I pulled into the parking lot and got in line behind another car while I was trying to figure out what I wanted to order. The one thing that I noticed about this drive-thru was it was like a trap. Once you got in line, you were stuck. There were high curbs on each side in some parts, and a brick wall in other parts. I didn't think much of it though, as my stomach was growling. I hit the drive-up ordering spot, did a quick read of the menu, and made my decision. The window person asked me what I wanted.
What would you like?
And I made my order. All was well, but things went south just after that. At first I didn't notice them, but a group of young guys seemingly appeared out of nowhere and started moving among the cars in the drive-thru line. I watched as two of them approached the car in front of me. One went to the driver's side window and the other went to the passenger window. Some little alarm went off in my head, and that's when both of the men pulled guns. There was a driver and a passenger in the car ahead of me. The driver's window must have been down because the man on that side stuck the gun in the driver's face. The man on the other side tapped the passenger's window hard enough with his gun for me to hear it. While I couldn't hear what they were saying, this was clearly a robbery in progress, and I never felt so trapped in my life. There was no place to go. There was a car behind me and one in front of me, with high curbs and trees on my right. Of course, I could have ditched the car and made a run for it, but I didn't know where the third guy was. If I stepped out, then maybe he was off hidden in the trees and bushes next to my car, ready to gun me down. On top of it all, I was petrified. I was barely able to move as my hands started to shake. I started thinking about how much money I was carrying. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Then I wondered if they'd be pissed and just might shoot me because I really didn't have anything. I was sweating bullets as they continued to shake down the car in front of me. I watched carefully what was going on. The driver immediately gave in. The passenger didn't want to comply with the man on his side of the car. Even with the windows up and the engine running, I heard the robber on the passenger side yell for the man inside to open the window. "Open the window now!" Still, the passenger didn't comply. The robber smacked the barrel of his gun off the window and then placed the end of the barrel against the window at head height. That's when the passenger gave in and rolled down his window. The robber must have been pissed because he whipped the gun barrel across the man's head and the man's head rocked backwards. The driver remained locked in his seat. All the while I was wondering how they might treat me. That's when I decided the undercarriage of my car was worth less than my life, and I cut the wheel hard and gunned the engine. Initially, the car had trouble going over the tall curb, but I pressed the accelerator down hard. The car climbed the curb and I heard an ugly metal against concrete sound, raking against the bottom of my car. I took the quickest of glances toward the man who'd been standing outside the driver's side window, and he started toward me, but he was too late. The next thing I knew, my car was crashing through a small sapling and two bushes. Once I got past those, the car fell hard onto the pavement and my tires squealed as I jerked forward. This time, I didn't even look back. No shots came my way, and 3 seconds later, I was speeding away from the scene. I read online that the robbers took off after that, but the man who was whacked upside the head had to go to the hospital with a concussion. Every time after that, when I got the late night munchies, I just made some microwave popcorn instead. I'm a terrible procrastinator, and in most cases, the worst thing that ever happened was a harmless mini disaster. But one time, It almost cost me everything. I was way behind on a paper for school and had planned to do an all-nighter to get it done to turn in the next day. That was when our internet went out at home. My phone wouldn't do hotspots, so it was no help. Half my sources were on the web, so I was forced to improvise to find free Wi-Fi. My choices were the library or McDonald's. Since the library closed at 9 and I knew I would be working well past that, McDonald's was my only choice. Plus, it did have warm food and bathrooms. The one thing I totally spaced out was that it was Halloween night. That would mean the place would probably be full of kids in costumes making a whole lot of noise. But I brought my earbuds along, so they did a good job of cutting out most of the noise. Since I was on a deadline, I was locked in and focused, not paying much attention to what was going on around me. I was in the zone when a man wearing a Halloween mask leaned down, got in my face, and cackled like some kind of crazy person. Needless to say, it startled me, but much to my surprise, he stood up, put his hands in the air in a gesture of surrender. He moved away from me, but after that, I had trouble focusing because he hovered around the restaurant, taking glances my way every few moments. After a while, the dining room settled down and I was able to return to my paper. I was just about back in the zone when the man appeared as if out of nowhere, and he slid into the seat on the other side of the table. He asked if he could sit down, but he was already sitting down, so asking permission was a little late. He tried to strike up a conversation, but I told him I was working on a school assignment. He said he might be able to help me, but I told him I didn't need his help. He said he was pretty smart and knows a lot of things. I told him that I can't take help because that would be cheating. Then he raised one of his feet and put it on the seat next to me. I could feel the heat coming off of him, and I really started to get creeped out. He doubled down and slid his foot across the seat and placed it against the side of my leg. Where he might have been playful before, I sensed menace coming off of him. I asked him to move his foot, but he just looked at me, and since he was wearing a mask, I couldn't read his expression. He said that the two of us could have a lot of fun together. I scanned the restaurant, but there was no one in it except for the two of us and the staff in the kitchen. I told him I have to work on my schoolwork, but I really was messaging my boyfriend on my computer. My boyfriend told me to get up and leave, but I got this feeling that this man did not want me to have that option. I told my boyfriend that, and he said he was coming right away. The man tried to be friendly, telling me how pretty I was. He tells me he's a nice guy, but I know that is the furthest thing from the truth. There's nothing nice about this man. I looked around, but it looked like the staff was all tucked away in the kitchen, and I felt like I was completely on my own. The man continued to try to smooth talk me. I got this feeling he was about to make a move on me when light sprayed in through the window and onto the man. I turned my head to look into the parking lot, and that's when I saw my boyfriend's car pull into a space, and I felt such a sense of relief wash over me. When I turned back to the man, it was like he had some sort of sixth sense about it, and he slipped out of his seat and headed toward the door on the other side of the restaurant. Part of me wanted to run after him, but instead I grabbed my laptop, slid out of my seat, and got out of there. My boyfriend met me at the door and even went to look for the man, but he was long gone. The next time I had a paper due and our internet went down, I would go to the library. When I was 26, I decided to go back to college. I had done 2 years when I was younger, but life and money got in the way. To build funds while I was out, I worked some full-time jobs, but I knew I had to go back sooner rather than later, or I might not ever make it back. So when I went back, I still needed to work, but not full-time. When I was in high school, I worked at McDonald's, so I thought it would be an easy transition to get back into that routine. I was basically a creature of habit. The one problem I had was I was fairly short and looked much younger than my 26 years. My close friends said that I wasn't hard on the eyes. Some even said I looked as cute as a pixie. That ended up working both for me and against me. It got me attention, but not all of it was good. Some of the guys that came around me put off a real creeper vibe. I was 2 months into my job when my McDonald's got a new late-night manager, which just happened to be the shift that I worked. He was an older guy in his mid-40s, but looked to be 5 to 10 years older. At first, everything was okay. We worked hard and got the job done. But after about a month, this new manager seemed to be making excuses to hang around me. If I was at the register, he would be there, saying he would just check things out. If I was working the floor, he'd be hovering around me. My inner alarms were going off like crazy. The way he leaned over me at times was definitely violating my personal space. He would constantly ask me if I had a boyfriend or what I was doing on the upcoming weekend. He would also ask me where I like to go on dates. This just kept escalating. I knew where it was going, and he finally asked me out. I told him I had a fiance, which was a lie, but either he didn't believe me or thought he could woo me away because he still kept asking. From then on out, I tried to keep my distance from him, but he seems like he always made an excuse to be wherever I was in the restaurant. I hated it when he assigned me to clean the bathrooms because he would stand around in the doorway, forcing me to literally have to turn sideways to get by him. Even then, he would move in such a way that he could brush an arm across my body. Every day I worked there, it was a tightrope of tension, trying to avoid this guy. It got so bad that the other employees started to notice. A few of them helped me avoid him. Well, one night, this creepy manager gave me the task of taking out the trash. The place where we dumped the trash was a separate little structure outside the main building. I made it to the dumpster and dropped all the trash, but when I turned around, he was there, blocking my path. There was no way around him. He kept pressing me hard to go out with him. I told him about my fiance, but he said he knew for sure that I wasn't engaged. He had checked up on me. For some reason, during the past few days, I had this feeling that someone was watching me in my apartment. I knew I should have listened to that intuition, but now I had a real problem right in front of me. I flat out told him that I did not want to go out with him. Something changed in his face, maybe an angry set, but his eyes were flat, and I thought I was in real trouble. That's when the lights of a car going through the drive-thru lit us up, and I used that distraction to slide by him. I checked out, saying I felt sick, and I never went back. It was time to break from the tried and true. I ended up becoming a proctor for a computer lab on campus where it was quiet and safe.